My mother had only a third grade education, and she didn't have the ability to get a good job, so she would work as a domestic, cleaning other people's houses. And she would get up and leave the house at 5 in the morning to go to a job. And then she would leave that job and go to another job. And then she would leave that job and go to another job. She would work 2 or 3 jobs at a time, getting back home between 11 p.m. and midnight. And the reason she worked so hard is because she didn't want to be on welfare. You know, it would have been very easy for her just to be on welfare and to accept public assistance. But she was a very observant person. And she noticed that no one that she ever saw go on public assistance came off of it. So she didn't want to go on it. She said, I want to be independent. I want to be able to control my own lives and the lives of my sons. So as a result of that, you know, my brother and I frequently didn't even see her for a week at a time. We were latchkey kids. We had our own key. We could come and go. And it was kind of a difficult situation. As a result of that, I was not the best student because I didn't think that I was very smart. And all of my classmates felt the same way. In fact, they always called me dummy. I was always the butt of any joke about anybody being stupid. If I was in the house with you, you didn't need a TV guide. I could tell you what was on every station, every hour, every minute, every day. I could tell you about all the latest fashions. I could tell you about all the hit tunes on the radio, the hip shows on TV. Every car going down the streets of Detroit, make, model, year, and price. But you know, that information and 50 cents might get you a can of soda. It won't get you a whole lot more than that. And that was the problem. That's the kind of student I was. And you know what? I have noticed today there are still a lot of students like that. Oh, they can tell you about who's winning on Dancing with the Stars. And they can tell you about who's winning the NBA. And they can tell you all of that kind of information, but they cannot tell you what a quadratic equation is. They can't tell you about important historical facts. They can't tell you about geography. And that is a very, very significant problem. You know, on the mainland, and I'm sure it's a problem here also, 30% of people who enter high school do not finish high school. That's a choice that they make. They end up being the occupiers, the people who say, somebody owes me something, somebody should give me that. You know what? They are the ones who cheated themselves because they refused to take advantage of an education that was offered to them free of charge. That is a life choice. And one thing that a person needs to recognize, the average person today lives to be about 80 years old. The first 20 to 25 years, you spend either preparing yourself or not preparing yourself. If you prepare yourself, you have 60 years to reap the benefits. If you don't prepare yourself, you have 60 years to suffer the consequences. And when you think about it that way, a little bit of hard work early on pays very significant dividends. There I was languishing as this horrible student. My mother was very concerned. My brother was doing poorly also. She didn't know what to do. So she prayed. She asked God to give her wisdom to know what to do. And you know what? He opened her eyes. Because she was there working in the homes, cleaning the homes of very wealthy, successful people. And she started looking around. And she noticed that they didn't spend a lot of time just sitting around watching television. She noticed that they spent a lot of time reading and strategizing. So she came home one day, turned off the TV, said, from now on, you guys can only watch 2 or 3 TV programs during the week, and with all that spare time, you're going to read 2 books apiece from the Detroit Public Library and submit to me written book reports, which she couldn't read, but we didn't know that, you know, and she would put little check marks and underline and highlights, and we would think she was reading them, but she wasn't. So, you know, there I was reading those books. But, you know, after a few weeks, I actually began to enjoy reading the books because we were desperately poor. We didn't have money for anything. But between the covers of those books, I could go anywhere. I could be anybody. I could do anything. I was reading about people of great accomplishment who did all kinds of amazing things. And one of the things that dawned on me as I was reading about these people is that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you. I was one of those people who thought they had a lot of rights. And the more rights you think you have, the more likely someone is to infringe upon your rights. And people were always infringing on my rights. I remember one time a fella hit me with a little pebble. It didn't hurt. But I was just incensed that he would dare hit me with a pebble. And I picked up a large rock, and I threw it at his face, broke his glasses, almost put his eye out. Another time a fellow was trying to close my locker at school. I didn't want it closed. I socked him in the forehead with my fist. Unfortunately, still had the lock in my hand. Put a 3-inch gash in his forehead. My mother was trying to get me to wear something. I didn't want to wear it. I picked up a hammer, went to hit her in the head with it. My brother caught it from behind, fortunately, before it found its mark. Other than that, I was a pretty good kid. But you can see how that temper gets you into a lot of trouble. If everything is not about you, then you're not likely to get angry. See, that's the hallmark of an angry person. Angry people tend to be very selfish people. Everything is about them. Somebody's in my space. Somebody took my thing. This is mine, you know? And if you step out of the center of the circle, let it be about somebody else, it's very difficult for you to become angry. When I got to high school, though, there was a problem. I ran into the worst thing a young person can run into. It's called peers. P-E-E-R-S. That stands for people who encourage errors, rudeness, and stupidity. That's what I ran into, negative peers. And I started listening to them. And it was a bad scene. But, you know, there's so many young people who get caught up in that.